All worlds begin with Demon Slayer. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426. Let the people go first. The reason why Yuzu Tenjin's shuriken slipped out of his hand was because he was shocked by the electric light on the blade of Agatsuma Zenitsu's sword, which made his arm numb, and then Agatsuma Zenitsu knocked the shuriken out of his hand. In addition, Yuzu Tenjin was carrying Kanzaki Aoi and Koki on his shoulders, and Kasumi and Kanaho were biting on his legs. Therefore, it was unlikely that Yuzu Tenjin would avoid Agatsuma Zenitsu's lightning-fast attack. The characteristics of the thunder-breathing technique are like this: as fast as lightning, coming and going without a trace, and killing with every move. You big guy, let Aoi-chan go, or I'll kill you. After failing to hurt Yuzu Tenjin with one blow, Agatsuma Zenitsu did not continue to attack because he was afraid of accidentally hurting Kanzaki Aoi, and was also afraid that Yuzu Tenjin would take Kanzaki Aoi as a hostage. Yuzu Tenjin looked at Agatsuma Zenitsu. Although Agatsuma Zenitsu's attack just now made him a little unhappy, Yuzu Tenjin did not attack Agatsuma Zenitsu, but said quite unexpectedly, "The user of thunder breathing has mastered Thunderbolt Flash to a high degree." The reason why Yuzu Tenjin was so surprised was that the sound breathing he used was derived from thunder breathing. So thunder breathing is the origin of sound breathing in a sense, just like mother and son. Zenitsu. Kanzaki Aoi was also very happy when she saw Zenitsu, because now Agatsuma Zenitsu is her man, a man who can protect her and is willing to protect her. Let Aoi-chan go, Agatsuma Zenitsu emphasized again. He looked like he was ready to fight Yuzu Tenjin to the death. Tanjiro and Inosuke, who came later, also felt that the atmosphere was not right. Inosuke was suddenly happy and said, "A fight is about to start." Tanjiro, are we going to help Zenitsu later? Inosuke, what are you helping? Team members can't fight privately. We have to stop them. Tanjiro was also a little helpless about Inosuke's fighting nature. Just when Tanjiro was about to step forward to make peace, Bai Yu had already heard the news and rushed over. Like a ghost, he immediately appeared in front of Zenitsu Agatsuma, and then blocked Zenitsu Agatsuma's chest with his hand, as if to prevent Zenitsu Agatsuma from being impulsive. Bai Yu looked at Yuzu Tenjin. Although he was not familiar with Yuzu Tenjin, Bai Yu still knew Yuzu Tenjin's identity, the pillar with the name of Sound Pillar. He was also a very powerful guy, but compared with Bai Yu, he was inferior. Let the man go first, Bai Yu said to him lightly, without any smile on his face. Yuzu Tenjin looked at Bai Yu who appeared, and without much hesitation, he let Kanzaki Aoi and Zaira King down. The released Kanzaki Aoi and Zaira King immediately pulled Zaira King and Kanaho to retreat behind Bai Yu. Agatsuma Zenitsu immediately asked Kanzaki Aoi anxiously, "Aoi-chan, are you okay? That big guy didn't do anything to you." Kanzaki Aoi shook her head and said, "It's okay. Don't worry. Lord Yuzu won't hurt me. He just wants to find female team members to go on a mission. We don't have the ability to go on a mission, so we all disagree, but Lord Yuzu insisted that we go." "That won't work either. Going on a mission is so dangerous. You'd better stay in the headquarters to be safer. I don't want to lose you. This guy is completely nonsense," Agatsuma Zenitsu said, very unhappy. "Bai Yu, you have to know that the pillar has the right to lead the team on a mission. Are you going to let me go alone?" Yuzu Tenjin immediately asked Bai Yu. Chapter 427. Flower Street. Since Bai Yu didn't allow him to take these female team members to the mission, Yuzu Tenjin wanted to see what Bai Yu was going to do. "You should tell me the details of your mission first. What mission can only be done by girls? And the headquarters didn't issue a notice in person?" Bai Yu didn't answer Yuzu Tenjin, but asked back, "This is exactly what's abnormal. If there is really a mission, there should be a notice from the headquarters." Suddenly, Yuzu Tenjin was also stumped by Bai Yu's question. This operation was indeed not a mission issued by the headquarters, but a private action of Yuzu Tenjin. It's just a simple investigation mission, and it doesn't require the personal dispatch of the headquarters. Yuzu Tenjin simply answered. Hearing this, Bai Yu knew that this must be a private job, so he was even more worried about Yuzu Tenjin taking Kanzaki Aoi away. Now Kanzaki Aoi is the lifeblood of my wife Zenitsu. If she has any problems, my wife Zenitsu will really go crazy, and Yuzu Tenjin is also likely to become the target of my wife Zenitsu's revenge. In that case, how about I go with you? Bai Yu immediately had the idea of going with Yuzu Tenjin himself. Senior Bai Yu, I'll go too. I want to go too. Tanjiro and Inosuke were immediately interested and immediately planned to go with Bai Yu. I'll go too. Nagatsuma's Zenitsu also echoed, intending to go on behalf of Kanzaki Aoi. You can go, but it would be better to bring a girl. Yuzu Tenjin did not have any opinions, but just suggested taking a girl. Hearing this, Bai Yu immediately summoned a crow, and then the crow said, go call Hattori Kyujo, and tell him there is a mission. After receiving Bai Yu's instructions, the crow flew away. After a while, Hattori Kyujo followed the crow to find Bai Yu, and asked Bai Yu, Captain Bai Yu, what is the mission? I don't know the details. The initiator of the mission will naturally tell you when the time comes. Bai Yu briefly explained to Hattori Kyujo. Bai Yu didn't know, so Hattori Kyujo didn't ask any more questions. After saying that, Bai Yu looked at Yuzu Tenjin and asked, when are we leaving? Give you a quarter of an hour to prepare. See you outside the butterfly house in a quarter of an hour. Yuzu Tenjin said, and then the whole person suddenly turned into a puff of white smoke and disappeared in everyone's sight. Be careful. Kanzaki Aoi saw that everyone was going on a mission, so she told Zenitsu Agatsuma. In fact, everyone didn't have anything to prepare. After a while, they all left the butterfly house. Yuzu Tenjin was already waiting for Bai Yu and his group outside. Where are we going? Big guy. Agatsuma Zenitsu couldn't help asking curiously after seeing Yuzu Tenjin. It's a place that can make men sink, and it's also the amusement park that can attract ghosts the most. Flower Street. If your girlfriend knew you were going to that kind of place, she would definitely kill you. Yuzu Tenjin looked at Agatsuma Zenitsu with a hint of amusement, as if he was planning to take Agatsuma Zenitsu to do something bad. Let's go. There is a wisteria family on the way to the Flower Street. We will make a detailed plan there. After that, Yuzu Tenjin did not intend to delay any longer and disappeared from everyone's sight. Follow me. Bai Yu said to everyone lightly, and followed him. In the blink of an eye, Bai Yu and Yuzu Tenjin had already run far away. Tanjiro, Agatsuma Zenitsu, Inosuke and Hattori Kyujo also hurriedly followed. Chapter 428, Yuzu Tenjin is worried. In fact, Bai Yu did not report to the organization when he went to the Flower Street with Yuzu Tenjin this time. Everyone left very suddenly. The reason why Bai Yu only called Hattori Kyujo and did not call the other members of the second team of Zangetsu was that the Murata brothers, Sakatsuki Ichiro and Inao Kenta had already gone on a mission a few days ago and had not returned yet. Even if they did not go on a mission, Bai Yu would not call them. After all, this mission was obviously Yuzu Tenjin's private work. The Murata brothers, Sakatsuki Ichiro and Inao Kenta are now considered the third echelon of the Demon Slayer Corps, and their strength is stronger than that of the A-level players. Therefore, some tasks with higher risks can be done by the four of them. Therefore, Murata and others do not need to follow Bai Yu in everything, and Bai Yu does not need to take them with him in everything. The first echelon is naturally Bai Yu and the pillars of the Demon Slayer Corps, and the second echelon is Tanjiro, Agatsuma Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Hattori Kyujo. In this way, with the first and second echelons on this trip to the Flower Street, it doesn't matter whether the third echelon comes or not. In fact, the establishment of the Zangetsu team was originally to deal with the 12 demon moons, but the upper string demons of the 12 demon moons are already in existence that the Zangetsu team cannot deal with, and the lower string demons, which are several levels lower than the upper string demons, have been completely wiped out during the Infinite Train. This makes the existence of the Zangetsu team more awkward, because they definitely can't deal with the upper string demons, and the lower string demons that can be dealt with have all been eliminated, so they can only do some tasks that the first class team members can't complete, which is also an arrangement that can bring out their greatest use. If Murata and others from the third echelon were asked to follow the crusade against the upper string demons, it would not have any effect, but would just end up dying in vain. Therefore, now Murata Shinichi, Murata Shinji, Sakata Ichiro, and Inao Kenta can be in a state of retirement, which is why Hattori Kyujo no longer leads the team. The Demon Slayer Corps will not send them to contact the upper string demon, because the task at that level is not their turn to come forward, but the pillars of the Demon Slayer Corps can solve it. However, the existence of Murata and others can also well restrict Muzan Kibutsuji from promoting new, lower string demon, and not give the newly appointed, lower string demon, room to grow. It's just that, whether Muzan Kibutsuji will promote a new, lower string demon, again is unknown. After a whole day of trekking, Yuzu Tenjin brought Bai Yu and his party to the Wisteria family, but it was not the house where Bai Yu and Tanjiro lived last time. After arriving at this family, Yuzu Tenjin summoned the owner without any hesitation, and the owner did Yuzu Tenjin's instructions one by one without any complaints. Yuzu Tenjin and Bai Yu's group temporarily rested in a room. The owner prepared some snacks in the room, and Inosuke couldn't wait to eat them. Hattori Kyujo might be really hungry, so he also picked up a piece of snack and ate it. Yuzu Tenjin sat aside with a heavy heart, and had no intention of eating. This made Bai Yu feel that this trip to the Flower Street was not simple. Chapter 429 Looking for a Wife. After Bai Yu left with Tanjiro and others, Kanzaki Aoi informed Shinobu Kocho of the matter. After listening to Shinobu Kocho, she was also a little confused. She didn't know why Yuzu Tenjin would act on his own, and Bai Yu actually led the team to follow Yuzu Tenjin without even notifying herself. Bai Yu's behavior made Shinobu Kocho angry and helpless, but Bai Yu had already left, and it was impossible to catch him back. Do you know where they are going? Shinobu Kocho asked Kanzaki Aoi again. Kanzaki Aoi naturally didn't know about this, so she shook her head. In the end, Shinobu Kocho could only report this matter to the head of the family, Yubuayashi Kiyoya, to see how Yubuayashi Kiyoya would arrange it. Yubuayashi Kiyoya, who was calm and collected, listened to Shinobu Kocho's report, and didn't get angry at all, but said, "Let them go. We just wait for good news." Seeing that the head of the family had no plans, Shinobu Kocho could only wait for Bai Yu and others to return at the headquarters. On the other side, Tenjin Yuzu, who was preoccupied with something, suddenly glanced at Bai Yu and said, after sneaking into the Flower Street, "You go find my wife first, and I will be responsible for collecting information about the ghost." Hearing this, Zenitsu Agatsuma, who was drinking hot tea, was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly shouted, "What? Find a wife? You called us here to help you find a wife? We are demon hunters from the Demon Slayer Corps, not a marriage agency." "Ah, what did you misunderstand, little yellow-haired devil?" Tenjin Yuzu saw that Zenitsu Agatsuma had misunderstood and shouted at Zenitsu Agatsuma in a bad tone, because Tenjin Yuzu did not want to lose to Zenitsu Agatsuma in momentum. Seeing that his words were interrupted, Agatsuma Zenitsu immediately raised his voice and pointed at Yuzu Tenjin and continued, "Shut up. Let me finish first. It's easy to know that a weird guy like you must be unpopular. But you actually asked us to help you find a wife in the Flower Street just because you want one. There is no such good thing in the world. I found my wife myself." Agatsuma Zenitsu continued to bombard Yuzu Tenjin unceremoniously. Bai Yu naturally knew that Agatsuma Zenitsu had misunderstood. Yuzu Tenjin's original words were to find my wife, which means that Yuzu Tenjin already had a wife, and he was not going to help Yuzu Tenjin find a wife. "Zenitsu, you are talking about yourself. You used to be weird to girls, and you were not very popular with girls. And you asked me to help you find a wife. If you and Aoi-chan didn't have everyone's help, I guess Kanzaki Aoi wouldn't agree to you." Bai Yu was tearing down Agatsuma Zenitsu at this time. Hearing this, Agatsuma Zenitsu suddenly became a little embarrassed, and then said to Bai Yu with a wronged face, "Senior Bai Yu, can't you give me some face?" After hearing what Bai Yu said, Yuzu Tenjin's anger was not so big, but he suddenly complained, saying, "Kid, I'm not like you. My wife is willing to follow me. There is no need to find one. Then you just said to help you find a wife." Agatsuma Zenitsu said viciously. Mr. Yuzu asked us to find his wife, not to help him find a wife. You misunderstood, Zenitsu. Tanjiro explained at this time. Oh, is that so? Agatsuma Zenitsu also scratched his head in embarrassment. Chapter 430. I have 3 wives. My wife had already sneaked into the flower street to collect information about the ghost. Because the regular contact was broken, I planned to go to the flower street. Yuzu Tenjin then told the purpose of his visit to the flower street. Hearing this, Agatsuma Zenitsu could understand Yuzu Tenjin's feelings at once. For Agatsuma Zenitsu, who finally gained love, he could best understand the importance of a partner. After that, Yuzu Tenjin poured out a lot of letters tied with ropes from a bag onto the table, and then said, these are the letters that my wife and I communicated with using the crow, and there are information about the ghost. Bai Yu roughly estimated that there should be more than 100 letters. With so many letters, it has been a long time since you have sneaked in, right? Tanjiro said, and couldn't help but pick up a stack of envelopes and opened them to read. After all, Yuzu Tenjin took the initiative to show it, so there is no situation where you can't go and see it. Hattori Kyujo also curiously checked these letters, because Yuzu Tenjin said that there was information about the ghost in them. Hearing this, Yuzu Tenjin replied, not long, because I have 3 wives, unlike someone who has trouble finding a wife. Yuzu Tenjin answered with great pride, and did not forget to mock Agatsuma Zenitsu. 3 wives. Are you deliberately pissing me off? Agatsuma Zenitsu was really surprised and screamed after hearing this. The sound was deafening and full of disbelief. I'm not that boring. Besides, I'm a pillar with super strength, elegant demeanor, and extremely gorgeous appearance. It's normal for women to like me. It's normal to have 3 wives. Yuzu Tenjin boasted about himself, and it was obvious that he was very proud of having 3 wives. Bai Yu didn't think there was anything wrong, because he already had 2 women, Kocho Shinobu and Kiko, and it was normal for Yuzu Tenjin to have 3 wives. After Zenitsu Agatsuma exclaimed, he was not angry with Tenjin Yuzu, but said, your 3 wives don't all look like flowers, do they? If Tenjin Yuzu's 3 wives all look like flowers, then Zenitsu Agatsuma would think it is normal for Tenjin Yuzu to have 3 such wives. But as soon as Zenitsu Agatsuma said this, Tenjin Yuzu punched Zenitsu Agatsuma in the stomach without any hesitation, knocking him down on the tatami, rolling his eyes, and his legs twitching from time to time. Tenjin Yuzu's punch did not cause any actual harm to Zenitsu Agatsuma, but only made him feel extremely painful. Your wife looks like a flower. My 3 wives are all beautiful women with excellent looks. Tenjin Yuzu said, very unhappy. At this time, Bai Yu did not check the letters one by one, but asked Yuzu Tenjin directly, what is the key information in these intelligence you obtained? Hearing this, Yuzu Tenjin calmed down his emotions, and then said, from the information from my 3 wives, I learned that there are 3 courtesans in the red light district, who are the most suspicious. They are, Suma, from Tokito-ya, Shino, from Ojimoto-ya, Hinajiro, from Kyogoku-ya. So, what you have to do is to sneak into these 3 stores to find my wives and confirm which courtesan is the ghost. This is why I want to bring girls with me. Only girls can better infiltrate the inside and contact the courtesans. Yuzu Tenjin continued to explain the situation to Bai Yu and others in detail. Chapter 431, Pretending to be a Woman. Hearing this, Bai Yu looked at Hattori Kyujo and then asked clearly, do you mean to let Kyujo go to these 3 stores as a prostitute? Note, a prostitute is a woman who sells her body in a tea shop called a certain house. Hearing Bai Yu's question, Yuzu Tenjin looked at Hattori Kyujo. With Hattori Kyujo's appearance, it would be no difficulty to infiltrate the inside, and maybe she would be trained to be a new Warren. However, Hattori Kyujo is a member of the Demon Slayer Corps after all, so it is impossible for her to stay in the flower street for a lifetime. It's not to let Kyujo sneak in as a prostitute, but to sneak in as a geisha, only selling art, and not selling her body. If there is really a customer who wants to force it, then just resist and run away. With her skills, it shouldn't be difficult to get away. However, with Kyujo's appearance, it might be possible for the store to train her as an Warren, so in the short term, she should be safe. Yuzu Tenjin explained to Bai Yu. Captain Bai Yu, don't worry, I'm fine. If it really comes to a last resort, I will find a way to get out. Hattori Kyujo said to Bai Yu, indicating that Bai Yu didn't need to worry too much. After all, he was just sneaking into the store to get information, not really selling himself. Hearing this, Bai Yu nodded and didn't say much. At this time, Tanjiro asked with some confusion, Mr. Yuzu, there are 3 suspicious stores, and Hattori Kyujo is only one person. How can we find out about the other 2? Tanjiro was indeed right. Hattori Kyujo was only one person, and it was impossible for him to run back and forth in 3 stores at the same time. Even if he could, it would easily arouse other people's suspicion. Yuzu Tenjin showed Tanjiro a wicked smile, and seemed to say with ill intentions, if this question is asked, you have to choose 2 more people from the remaining 2 stores. Because of Bai Yu's presence, Yuzu Tenjin did not make his own decision on the matter of choosing people, but Yuzu Tenjin knew that Bai Yu would definitely not sneak in personally. Hearing this, Tanjiro was still a little confused and asked again, Mr. Yuzu, but we are boys, are we going to do odd jobs in the store? Yuzu Tenjin shook his head and said, the tea shop does not accept men, you have to disguise yourself as women to sneak in. As for which 2 people to disguise, you have to discuss it yourself. Anyway, I know that Bai Yu will definitely not disguise himself as a woman. After saying that, Yuzu Tenjin looked at Bai Yu. Bai Yu did not refute anything. Bai Yu really had no interest in dressing up as a woman. So Bai Yu thought about it, and then said, let Zenitsu and Inosuke take on this task. Inosuke, who was only focused on eating snacks, was immediately unhappy when he heard Bai Yu's words, and then said, I don't want to dress up as a woman. Brother Baimao, go find Tanjiro. And Zenitsu Agatsuma, who had recovered, immediately sat up and said reluctantly, Senior Bai Yu, I won't do this job either. I think you look pretty and suitable to dress up as a girl. Are you sure you want to give me such a good job? There are many young and beautiful prostitutes in the tea shop. This is a great opportunity for you to find a second wife. Are you sure you want to give up? Bai Yu pretended to seduce Zenitsu Agatsuma again. Hearing this, Zenitsu Agatsuma was also somewhat moved by Bai Yu, and couldn't help but look at Tenjin Yuzu, who had 3 wives. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432, First Meeting with the Warren. However, when he thought of Kanzaki Aoi, Agatsuma Zenitsu felt that there was no need for a second wife, so he refused and said, Senior Bai Yu, I don't need a second wife, I have Aoi-chan and that's enough. Agatsuma Zenitsu was able to say such a thing, which really surprised Bai Yu a little bit. It seems that Kanzaki Aoi has really changed Agatsuma Zenitsu a lot, at least he is no longer so sentimental. Obviously, Agatsuma Zenitsu is a contented person. Although Agatsuma Zenitsu was not happy, he finally accepted the task at the strong request of Bai Yu. Inosuke was not happy at first, but he was the most suitable to dress up as a woman, because the face under Inosuke's wild boar head cover was a woman's face that looked quite cute and beautiful. So Inosuke and Agatsuma Zenitsu were forced by Bai Yu to take on this task. After that, Yuzu Tenjin began to put on makeup for Hattori Kyujo, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke, and then changed into the women's kimono prepared by the owner of the house. Except for Hattori Kyujo, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke, who had to put on makeup and change clothes because of the mission. Shiraha, Tanjiro and Yuzu Tenjin also changed their team uniforms and put on more ordinary kimonos. I have to say that Yuzu Tenjin's makeup skills are really not flattering. Hattori Kyujo, who is obviously a big beauty, suddenly became a killer with a back that can soften men under the makeup of Yuzu Tenjin. So, even if Inosuke has a beautiful woman's face, he has also become a flower that can scare people to death, not to mention Agatsuma Zenitsu. But no one laughed at them. After all, it was the need of the lurking mission. After that, the group came to the flower street. Yuzu Tenjin disguised himself as a poor family who was going to sell his sister, and took Hattori Kyujo, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke to the 3 most suspicious tea shops. Takitoya, Ojimotoya, and Kayagakuya. The tea shop is also a more elegant disguise and name, and the actual business is all for men. Bai Yu and Tanjiro were strolling around the flower street, first to get familiar with the environment, and second to see if Tanjiro's nose could find traces of a ghost. After all, the flower street is busiest at night, when most people relax. After strolling for a while, Bai Yu asked Tanjiro, "Did you find anything?" Hearing this, Tanjiro shook his head and said, "Not yet." At this time, a burst of excited discussion came from the crowd. "It's the Koinoka from Takitoya. It looks like a big boss from Takitoya has come." The fact that Koinoka can come out to parade means she's going to Takitoya to meet the big boss. She's worthy of being an Warren. She's so beautiful. I would be willing to live 10 years less if I could have sex with her just once. P.S. In chapter 430, the Suma, Shine, and Hinzuru, mentioned by Yuzu Tenjin are not the names of Warrens, but the names of his 3 wives. Bai Yu and Tanjiro were also attracted by the excited discussions of the crowd. Bai Yu immediately said to Tanjiro, "Go and take a look, and smell the scent of the Warren from Takitoya." Hearing that, Tanjiro immediately followed Bai Yu into the crowd. Chapter 433 No Abnormality. I saw a huge group of people walking slowly on the street, and many residents living in Huaji were watching on both sides of the street. Most of the onlookers were men, but there were also a few women, and even a few children. The Warren walked very slowly, but very rhythmically, which was also the rule and etiquette that the Warren had to follow. Bai Yu looked at the slow-moving Warren, and couldn't help but smile. If the Warren really waited until she walked to Shirinwu to see the customer in the store would probably have lost interest long ago. Anyway, if it was Bai Yu, he would definitely not be interested. Because even if you see the Warren, you can't get to the point right away. If the Warren doesn't like the customer she shows up, she can turn around and leave without continuing to receive him. Even if you like her, if it's the first meeting, you can't touch the Warren. You can only watch from a distance, and then continue to win the heart of the Warren. The way to win the heart of the Warren is also very simple and crude. That is, to show your financial resources in front of the Warren and spend wantonly. This cycle repeats until you really win the heart of the Warren. Generally, as long as the man is not too ugly and can spend money to meet the Warren 3 times, the matter will be settled. Because in reality, few people can persist in spending money to meet the Warren 3 times, so the Warren will generally prepare chopsticks with the guest's name on them for the 3rd meeting, which is a hint that the guest can have a kiss tonight and spend a good night together. And this 3rd meeting is just like a blind date, a betrothal, and a marriage. Only by getting married can you truly establish a relationship with the Warren. After that, every time you meet, you can spend a good night with her, as long as you spend enough money. Because as long as you have money, you can establish a relationship with the Warren. To put it bluntly, the Warren is actually a high-end public daily necessities. Therefore, Bai Yu naturally won't be too cold to the Warren. As a dimensional traverser from modern society, Bai Yu has seen too many beauties, and Bai Yu values feelings more, rather than this kind of simple money and physical transactions. There are also many followers and bodyguards following the Warren. In front of the Warren was a man holding a lantern with the Warren's official emblem and name printed on it. Behind him were 2 little girls about 10 years old, holding Warren's supplies. They were specially responsible for helping the Warren during the parade, and were called Bald. Behind the Bald was the Warren herself, and behind them were several Shinzo and bodyguards. Shinzo were girls who were older than the Bald, but had not yet been able to receive customers. They were also girls sent to receive customers when the Warren was not available to receive customers with whom she had established a relationship. However, Shinzo could not have relationships with customers. Bai Yu simply looked at the Koiksha Warren and then asked Tanjiro, "Tanjiro, how is it? Is there anything unusual?" Hearing this, Tanjiro shook his head and replied to Bai Yu, "Bai Yu Senior, it is the breath of a human, and there is nothing unusual about the people inside. Are you sure?" Bai Yu confirmed again. "Yeah." Tanjiro nodded. "Then let's go somewhere else and take a look." Bai Yu did not intend to stay and watch, so he turned around and prepared to leave. Tanjiro had no intention of even looking at the beautiful woman and quickly followed Bai Yu away. Chapter 434. First visit to the girl's house. Afterwards, Shiraha and Tanjiro walked around the triangle area formed by Tokito-ya, Ojimoto-ya, and Kyogoku-ya. Tanjiro's sensitive nose did not smell any suspicious smell, so Shiraha and Tanjiro basically did not gain anything, and could only be regarded as familiar with the environment of the flower street. Shiraha and Tanjiro met with Yuzu Tenjin at a noodle restaurant as agreed, and both sides told each other about their own situation. From what Yuzu Tenjin learned, Hattori Kyujo was the most successful, and with his own conditions, he easily sneaked into Kyogoku-ya. Inosuke was also successful, and was arranged in Ojimoto-ya. Nagatsuma's Zenitsu had to work very hard before Yuzu Tenjin arranged him in Tokito-ya. Speaking of Zenitsu, Yuzu Tenjin couldn't help but complain. Not only can he not be sold at a good price, but people don't even want him for free. If paying money for him wouldn't arouse suspicion, I would have sold him, even if I paid for him. Fortunately, after my persuasion, they reluctantly accepted him, and the matter has been settled. We just have to wait for their news then. After saying that, Yuzu Tenjin took out the money he got from selling his bodies to Hattori Kyujo and Inosuke, handed it to Shiraha and said, "This money is the selling price the tea shop gave them. One is for Kyujo and the other is for Inosuke. Zenitsu gave him away for free, so there is no more. When the matter is over, you can give it to Kyujo and Inosuke." Bai Yu did not have any objection, and put 2 stacks of money in envelopes that were not too thick into his arms. This money was regarded as their hard work fee for infiltrating the inner circle. After a while, the 3 bowls of seafood udon ordered by Bai Yu, Tanjiro and Yuzu Tenjin were served by the boss. The boss habitually said politely, "Please enjoy your meal." After eating the udon, Yuzu Tenjin paid for the noodles. The 3 of them left the noodle shop quickly, and then squatted near the 3 shops to see if they could catch any clues of the ghost. However, on the first night, Bai Yu, Tanjiro and Yuzu Tenjin did not gain anything, so the 3 of them returned to the Wisteria family to rest. When the sun set, they continued a new round of squatting, but this time, Bai Yu planned to take Tanjiro to the tea shop to see if they could find clues in these 3 tea shops that could not be found outside. Shiraha and Tanjiro first chose Kyogoku-ya as the first store to investigate in depth. Yuzu Tenjin did not have this plan, but Yuzu Tenjin did not stop Shiraha and Tanjiro, but just stayed outside the store on his own. In fact, Yuzu Tenjin actually had a more suspicious candidate in his mind, that is, the wearer of Kyogoku-ya Daki, which is why Yuzu Tenjin has been staring at Kyogoku-ya. As for Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke who stayed in Tokito-ya and Ojimoto-ya, they were prepared to keep a few more hands. After all, Yuzu Tenjin's other 2 wives also lost news in Tokito-ya and Ojimoto-ya, so it is not ruled out that there are also ghosts in those 2 houses. As soon as Shiraha and Tanjiro walked into Kyogoku-ya, they were immediately surrounded by groups of prostitutes with different looks. "Oh hey, what a handsome little brother. Come on, little brother, I will accompany you tonight to spend the night." Chapter 435 Tanjiro's Shyness. All of a sudden, Bai Yu and Tanjiro were held by these prostitutes, and their bodies kept rubbing against Bai Yu and Tanjiro. Tanjiro obviously had never experienced such a scene before, and he couldn't help but reject these prostitutes who threw themselves at him. "He's just a servant, don't embarrass him." Bai Yu saw that Tanjiro didn't like such a scene, so he signaled to the prostitutes who threw themselves at Tanjiro. Hearing this, the prostitutes immediately let go of Tanjiro after knowing his identity, and then stuck to Bai Yu one after another. Tanjiro finally breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked at Bai Yu who was surrounded by the girls, and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Senior Bai Yu is really calm in the face of chaos. His realm is indeed different from mine. Bai Yu looked at the girls surrounding him, and then picked out a girl who seemed to have more experience, and was very familiar with the situation of Kyogoku-ya. He then took the initiative to hug her in his arms, and then said to the others, "She's the one. You other sisters, next time, take turns one by one." The girl chosen by Bai Yu was also very happy. After all, handsome guys like Bai Yu are rare. It doesn't matter if she doesn't pay to have sex with a handsome guy like Bai Yu. Seeing that Bai Yu had a clear goal, the other girls' enthusiasm for taking the initiative declined. Only a few girls who were unwilling to give up said, "Little brother, you are a rare talent. I'm afraid one person can't satisfy you. Why don't you choose me too?" Bai Yu waved his hand and said, "Next time. Next time." Bai Yu's real purpose was to gather intelligence, not to be cool and carefree. If he really wanted to be cool and carefree, with Bai Yu's current physical fitness, 7 or 8 people would not be a problem. Seeing that Bai Yu didn't mean to do so, the girl didn't force it, so she withdrew with a smile. After that, Bai Yu, Tanjiro and the girl came to a private room. Bai Yu immediately ordered a few geishas who were selling art, but not their bodies, to come into the room to perform their talents. And also ordered some snacks and fruit plates, which are naturally must-consume items. Even if you don't order, the girl will persuade you to consume. This is the rule of the girl's house. It is impossible for you to run to the bed as soon as you come in. Bai Yu also sacrificed himself for the information, and let the prostitute rub against him. "Young master, you are a foreigner, right? I have never seen you come to Kagakuya before. This time I will definitely treat you well, and leave you an unforgettable memory." The prostitute couldn't help but come to Bai Yu, and said with a fragrant breath, and looked like she wanted to take the opportunity to kiss Bai Yu. Bai Yu immediately blocked the prostitute's face with his index and middle fingers, and then his other hand slid along her waist to her thigh, saying, "No hurry. I will satisfy you later." Bai Yu didn't want to show too much rejection, but pretended to be an old/Jianghu look, and put his hands on the prostitute very naturally. If he showed too much rejection, it would be very abnormal. After all, he came to this place to eat, drink and have fun. If Bai Yu didn't even touch the prostitute, it would be difficult to carry out the next trick. Tanjiro no longer dared to look at Shiraha, who was being intimate with the girl. Although Tanjiro knew that Shiraha was making sacrifices in order not to arouse suspicion, Tanjiro could not stand such a fiery scene. Chapter 436 News about Inazuru. The courtesan could also tell from Bai Yu's movements on her body that Bai Yu might be an old hand, so she was not in a hurry and leaned back. "I heard that Kagakuya seems to have an wearer named Inazuru, right? I heard that she is very beautiful." Bai Yu took this opportunity to ask the most important question. Hearing Bai Yu talking about the Warren, the courtesan lying in Bai Yu's arms felt a little out of favor and became a little unhappy in her heart. But her unhappiness was not anger, but she was afraid that Bai Yu only had the Warren in his eyes and not herself. If Bai Yu really had the financial resources to play with the Warren, he could definitely redeem her from Kagakuya hundreds of times. Therefore, the courtesan's little tricks rose up all of a sudden, and then she complained to Bai Yu pretending to be wronged. "Isn't she good? What's so good about the Warren?" From the tone of her voice, Bai Yu could hear that there was a hint of jealousy and fear in her tone. After all, she was just a courtesan of low status. "No, you are very good. I'm just curious, just tell me. I have many women. I will definitely not be indifferent to you." Bai Yu immediately tightened the girl in his arms and comforted her. Although she knew that Bai Yu was just saying sweet words, women often fall for it, and she couldn't help but feel happy. "Tell me your name, and I will tell you about Inazuru." The girl in Bai Yu's arms couldn't help but become cunning. Hearing this, Bai Yu smiled, and then said, "You haven't told me your name yet." On the other side, Tanjiro could only drink tea and watch the geishas playing instruments and dancing. Tanjiro tried his best to shield Bai Yu from the situation. "My name is Ryoko Miyazawa. You must remember it in your heart for the rest of your life. Don't forget it." The girl named Ryoko Miyazawa told Bai Yu very seriously. "My name is Bai Yu. Can you tell me about Inazuru Warren now?" Bai Yu also told Ryoko Miyazawa his name, and then continued to ask about Inazuru. "Bai Yu, Bai Yu." Miyazawa Ryoko chanted Bai Yu's name in her heart, then pretended to sigh to Bai Yu, and then said, "Alas, Inazuru is indeed the Warren of our Kagakuya, but I don't know what happened a week ago. She seemed to be suddenly seriously ill, and then she was sent to Kuramiai." At this point, Miyazawa Ryoko couldn't help but look around the room, and then leaned close to Bai Yu's ear and continued to whisper, "When Inazuru was sick, she coughed up a lot of blood. It was very scary, and it felt like she was going to die at any time. Now that so much time has passed, maybe she is dead. Even if she is not dead, this sickly Warren is no longer as glamorous as she used to be, and she may even infect you with a disease. I promise you, my skills are definitely not worse than the Warren. After hearing what Miyazawa said, the expression on Bai Yu's face sank slightly, but he did not show too much panic. But Bai Yu did not take Miyazawa's guarantee to heart. What puzzled Bai Yu was, what was the place that Miyazawa was talking about? Was it a clinic? Bai Yu knew that, although he knew about Inazuru now, it was not the time to leave. Therefore, Bai Yu did not tell Tanjiro about it, and asked Tanjiro to tell Yuzu Tenjin. Because the matter seemed simple, but there were many strange things. Chapter 437, Muzan Kibutsuji appears. Really? Then it should be another Warren, right? Bai Yu calmed down, and then continued to ask. Seeing Bai Yu's interest in Warren, Miyazawa was both happy and worried. She was happy, because Bai Yu might have a good financial resources, otherwise he wouldn't keep talking about Warren. She was worried, because Bai Yu's mind was not completely on her, so she was a little sad. However, as a prostitute who has been in the industry for many years, Miyazawa still acts based on the principle of serving and pleasing customers, so she said to Bai Yu very respectfully, of course we have an Warren. Because of Inazuru's incident, now our Kagakuya only has a Warren Daki as the last storefront. Having said that, Miyazawa leaned close to Bai Yu's ear and continued softly, but Daki is very hypocritical and has a big air. She often suppresses and bullies other prostitutes in the store. Several younger girls committed suicide in their rooms the next day because they were bullied by her. After that, Miyazawa gave Bai Yu a look that told him not to associate with her, and then said, "Sir, you are so elegant, it's not worth it for you to associate with such a woman." Bai Yu was not scared by Miyazawa's words. After all, there were so many women in the tea shop of the prostitute's house, so intrigue was inevitable. However, Bai Yu had no intention of contacting the Dakeim, because Bai Yu did not have so much money to spend on the Warren. Just as Bai Yu was about to continue asking about the Dakeim, Tanjiro suddenly stood up and was about to rush out the door. Seeing this, Bai Yu knew that Tanjiro must have discovered the situation. However, Bai Yu grabbed Tanjiro, then covered Tanjiro's mouth, and said to him, "Don't be impulsive." The reason why Bai Yu covered his mouth was that he was afraid that Tanjiro would say something in excitement and alarm the other party. Tanjiro kept struggling, with murderous aura all over his body, which made Bai Yu a little confused. What happened to make Tanjiro murderous? Tanjiro, hold back your murderous aura, it will let the other party notice it. Now is not the time to expose it. Bai Yu immediately scolded in a low voice. At this time, Bai Yu could already guess why Tanjiro had such a reaction. The only one who could make Tanjiro react like this was Muzan Kibutsuji. As soon as Bai Yu said this, Tanjiro's murderous aura slowly suppressed. However, Bai Yu was still worried, so he immediately said to Tanjiro, "Hide your breath." Miyazawa and the geishas who were performing their talents were stunned for a moment, and the music stopped abruptly. Then, a woman's flattering voice was heard outside. "Boss, you are here again, and you are here to see Daki Warren again." Bai Yu did not dare to release his perception, because although he could sense the other party, as long as the other party was not an ordinary person, it would be easy to expose himself. Bai Yu knew from the pause in his footsteps that the person outside had stopped outside the room. "Madam, this is the room. Go and call Daki. I'll wait for her here." A man's voice sounded. "Boss, there are guests in this room. Let's go to the room you often use." From the words of the madam, it seemed that she did not intend to let the man enter Bai Yu's room. Chapter 438 Playing with Fire. The man's voice made Bai Yu very sure that the person outside might be Muzan Kibutsuji disguised as a human. Obviously, he should still use the same identity and image as last time. "Really? But I saw that the room was very quiet. How could there be someone here?" The man's voice rang again, and Bai Yu saw a dark shadow standing outside the door, ready to push the door open. The madam naturally stopped the man's behavior. She knew best whether there were guests in the room. Although the room was unusually quiet, it was not a reason to push the door open casually. Because of the rules of this business, disturbing guests is a taboo. Hide behind the door. Bai Yu immediately whispered to Tanjiro, and Tanjiro also held his breath and hid behind the door. However, Bai Yu did not hide behind the door with Tanjiro, but turned around and pounced on Ryoko Miyazawa, and then used a monkey's moon catching move to grab between Ryoko Miyazawa's legs, and Ryoko Miyazawa screamed out in shame. After that, Bai Yu bit Miyazawa Ryoko's earlobe again, and Miyazawa Ryoko screamed even louder, with a gasp at the same time, which made people imagine a lot. In the quiet room, there was such a movement suddenly. The madam immediately knew what was happening in the room, so she said to the man who was about to enter the room with a smirk, "Boss, the guests in the room are doing business. Let's not disturb them." The man hesitated for a moment, then took back his hand on the door, gave up the idea of entering the room, and then walked away under the guidance of the madam. Seeing the footsteps go away, Bai Yu stopped stimulating Miyazawa Ryoko, but Miyazawa Ryoko had already been conquered by Bai Yu's offensive, with a look of unsatisfied expression on her face, and her face was extremely red. Bai Yu did all this just to let the madam know that there were guests in the room, and then let her stop the man from pushing the door. Bai Yu's sudden action stunned the geishas, and his own performers were still there. "You guys started fighting?" At this point, they didn't know whether to leave or stay to perform their talents for the guests. "Bai Yu-kun, you are so awesome." Miyazawa Ryoko praised Bai Yu. After that, Miyazawa Ryoko pushed Bai Yu down and sat on Bai Yu's waist, as if she was the host. Then she leaned over and prepared to kiss Bai Yu. "Ryoko, wait. Bai Yu immediately covered Miyazawa Ryoko's mouth with her hand and begged for mercy. Bai Yu's behavior just now was just to force the man outside the door away, not to really have sex with Miyazawa Ryoko. Seeing that Bai Yu didn't let her kiss him, Miyazawa Ryoko stretched out her tongue to lick Bai Yu's palm. This licking gave Bai Yu goosebumps. Bai Yu immediately pulled his hand away, then pressed Miyazawa Ryoko to the ground, and said to her, "Be patient for a moment, I have something to tell my servant. Then hurry up." Miyazawa Ryoko had to restrain the desire in her heart, and then complained to Bai Yu. Bai Yu then let go of Miyazawa Ryoko, then stood up, and came in front of Tanjiro. Tanjiro looked a little dazed at this time, and Bai Yu immediately shouted to him, "Tanjiro, it's the breath of Muzan Kibutsuji, right? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 439 New Situation. Hearing this, Tanjiro nodded, and then asked with some resentment to Bai Yu, "Senior Bai Yu, why did you let Muzan Kibutsuji go?" Bai Yu turned his head and looked at the geishas in the room, and then said to them, "You go down first." Hearing this, the geishas did not ask any more questions, and quickly got up, picked up their instruments, and left the room. Bai Yu immediately said to Ryoko Miyazawa, "Ryoko, you go outside and wait for me first. I will tell you about the things, and then I will do the business." Ryoko Miyazawa knew that Bai Yu and Tanjiro had something to say in private, so she tidied her clothes, then got up and walked out of the room, waiting for Bai Yu's instructions outside the room. Bai Yu returned to the position he was in just now, and then motioned Tanjiro to sit opposite him. Tanjiro knew that it was easy to be overheard if he stood by the door and talked, so he sat opposite Bai Yu. "I understand your feelings, but now is not the time to alert the enemy. Even if we rushed out just now, can you guarantee that we can kill him?" Bai Yu said to Tanjiro very softly, not loudly. Bai Yu knew that he could not kill Muzan Kibutsuji now, so Bai Yu did not rashly expose himself in front of Muzan Kibutsuji. Tanjiro knew that Bai Yu was right. If Muzan Kibutsuji could be killed so easily, it would not be Tanjiro's turn to do it. Muzan Kibutsuji appeared in Kyogoku-ya on Yashiwara Flower Street. With Muzan Kibutsuji's personality, this is definitely not a place to stay. This means that there are really other ghosts lurking in Kyogoku-ya, and this ghost may be an upper string. "I will stay here To continue to find out the situation, you go out and meet up with Yuzu Tenjin, wait in the store, and see if you can catch Muzan Kibutsuji's foxtail. Bai Yu said a lot to Tanjiro, and then gave Tanjiro instructions, but Bai Yu did not mention the matter about Inazuru. Because Bai Yu was afraid that Yuzu Tenjin would rashly alarm the other party because of Hinazuru. Tanjiro did not have any opinion on this. At this time, Tanjiro wished that all the pillars of the Demon Slayer Corps were in Flower Street, so that he could immediately launch a siege against Muzan Kibutsuji. So, Tanjiro left the room with a heavy face, and then smelled carefully on the door and the floor, and indeed smelled the faint smell of Muzan Kibutsuji. At this time, Muzan's breath seemed to be hidden, because he sensed Tanjiro's murderous intent just now. At this time, Tanjiro had no way to determine Muzan's location through his breath. Smell and breath are not the same. Even if Muzan can hide his own breath, he can never hide the smell on his body. Because the smell is emitted from the body and cannot be hidden, and ordinary people may not be sensitive to smell, but for Tanjiro, no smell can escape his nose. However, smell has a characteristic, that is, volatility, especially in places with complex personnel such as the Yujo house. The smell is easier to be covered and easily evaporated. The last time Tanjiro found Muzan in Asakusa, Tokyo Prefecture, it was through his breath. At that time, Muzan did not hide his breath, so Tanjiro, who had a sensitive nose, caught him in the act. Because the breath disappeared, Tanjiro could not rely on this thin smell to confirm where Muzan went. Chapter 440, Dakimakura meet Muzan. Ryoko Miyazawa looked at Tanjiro, who was behaving strangely, and her eyes were also a little strange. At the same time, she did not dare to get close to Tanjiro. Because in Ryoko Miyazawa's view, a man like Tanjiro who does not touch women is a freak. The inexplicable desire to rush out of the room just now felt like a mental illness. Tanjiro did not pay attention to Ryoko Miyazawa outside the room. After smelling the smell on the door, he left without looking back. According to the plan, Tanjiro found Yuzu Tenjin after leaving Kyogokuya, and then told him about the situation of meeting Muzan Kibutsuji in Kyogokuya. This made Yuzu Tenjin excited and annoyed. He was clearly watching outside, but he didn't even notice Muzan Kibutsuji entering Kyogokuya. Where is Bai Yu? Yuzu Tenjin asked again, when he saw Bai Yu did not come out. Mr. Yuzu, Senior Bai Yu is going to find out more. He asked me to stay outside with you to keep an eye on Muzan Kibutsuji. Tanjiro replied. After learning about this, Yuzu Tenjin did not ask any more questions, but focus more on the situation around him. On the other side, not long after Tanjiro left, Bai Yu also left the room, and then said to Miyazawa Ryoko, let's go. Let's do some business. So, Miyazawa Ryoko took Bai Yu's arm, and then took Bai Yu to the special room for work. After entering the room, Miyazawa Ryoko couldn't hold back. Bai Yu took the opportunity to pinch her neck, and then Miyazawa Ryoko fainted in Bai Yu's arms. Bai Yu looked at the woman in his arms and shook his head and said, guilty, guilty. After that, Bai Yu carried Miyazawa Ryoko to the bed, covered her with a quilt, and finally took out an envelope with coins, and stuffed it into Miyazawa Ryoko's arms. This was also Bai Yu's thanks for her intelligence. After that, Bai Yu flipped from the window to the roof, and then carefully checked along the roof a little bit, and finally touched the roof of the room, where Muzan Kibutsuji was. At this time, Muzan Kibutsuji's room was quite lively. There were many geishas performing their talents for Muzan Kibutsuji, and there were also many superior girls around him. It can be said that he was hugged by people on both sides, and there was a feeling of an emperor. Bai Yu hid his aura and lurked on the roof for a long time. During the whole process, Muzan behaved like a normal human being and did not show his cannibalistic side. Bai Yu could not help but mutter in his heart, is Muzan really here to enjoy life? I don't know how long I waited. The music stopped, and Bai Yu heard the footsteps of many people leaving. After a while, Bai Yu saw a group of people coming to the corridor on the roof. Suddenly, Bai Yu knew why those people in the room just now left. It seemed that the real owner had come. Muzan was waiting for the Takimaki Warren of Kyogokuya. It took a lot of time to wait for this Takimaki to come to Muzan's room. My lord. It's been a long time since we last met. I miss you so much." As soon as Takemaki entered the house, she bowed to Muzan, obviously respecting him very much. The bald and Shinzo, who were traveling with her, also followed Daki and performed a great salute. After the salute, Daki instructed the bald and Shinzo, who were traveling with her, "You can leave now. Don't disturb my tryst with the adults." Then, the bald and Shinzo all left the room, but did not wait outside the room, but stayed away from the room. Chapter 441 No Gain. After a while, Takemaki immediately knelt down in front of Muzan Kibutsuji, and then said nervously, "My lord, why are you here? Come here." Muzan Kibutsuji patted his thigh and said. Takemaki did not dare to neglect it, and immediately crawled in front of Muzan Kibutsuji, and then sat on Muzan Kibutsuji's thigh. Compared with the noble and upright appearance before, it was completely different. As soon as Takemaki sat on it, Muzan Kibutsuji kissed Takemaki, and Takemaki did not dare to resist, so she could only gently hook Muzan Kibutsuji's neck. Bai Yu on the roof naturally did not know what was happening in the room. The only movement Bai Yu could hear was the tiny voice. It was not clear, and he had to listen very carefully to distinguish what was being said. After stopping, a panting sound came after a while, which made Bai Yu think that Muzan Kibutsuji came to the flower street to enjoy beauty. This made Bai Yu think of taking this opportunity to kill Muzan Kibutsuji by surprise, so that Muzan Kibutsuji would be frightened while he was enjoying himself. However, after thinking about it carefully, Bai Yu still did not intend to do so. With Muzan Kibutsuji's psychological quality, it was obviously impossible to scare him. Doing so would only expose himself. However, Bai Yu did not want to expose himself. First of all, exposing himself would make Muzan Kibutsuji completely alert, and it would be much more difficult to let Muzan Kibutsuji show up again. Because Bai Yu was not sure of killing Muzan Kibutsuji, there were only two results for contacting Muzan Kibutsuji now. Either he would be defeated by Muzan Kibutsuji and then be beaten away, or Muzan Kibutsuji would find that he could not do anything to him, and then choose to escape and not entangle with him. If the 9 pillars of the Demon Slayer Corps were all in the flower street at this time, then he could still take the initiative to attack first, hold back Muzan Kibutsuji, and then cooperate with other pillars to make Muzan Kibutsuji dumplings and fight a war of attrition to kill this guy. However, in reality, only Bai Yu and Yuzu Tenjin are powerful in the flower street. It is obviously not enough for him and Yuzu Tenjin alone. The most important thing is that Bai Yu did not carry his own demon slaying sword or Nichiren sword with him because of the need to inquire, so he has no conditions to fight Muzan Kibutsuji now. I don't know how long it took. The panting stopped and Bai Yu's attention also focused. After that, Bai Yu heard the sound of the door being pushed open, and then the voice of Daki sounded, "My lord, take care." Bai Yu, who was lurking on the roof, was a little overwhelmed. Muzan Kibutsuji left after having sex with the Warren? Could it be that Muzan Kibutsuji really came here for fun? But Bai Yu's intuition told him that things must not be that simple. There was something very wrong with this Takemakami. The woman who could make Muzan Kibutsuji come to see her in person must not be just an Warren. Muzan Kibutsuji must have communicated with Takemakami through other means. Could it be that after the physical connection was established, the souls could communicate? Bai Yu was a little disappointed that he had gained nothing after waiting for so long. Helplessly, Bai Yu had to withdraw and immediately reunited with Tanjiro and Yuzu Tenjin, who stayed outside Kyogokuya. "Where is Muzan Kibutsuji? How is he?" Yuzu Tenjin asked as soon as he saw Bai Yu. Chapter 442 Anxiety. Bai Yu shook his head and said, "Muzan Kibutsuji may be coming out. Tanjiro, pay more attention." Hearing Bai Yu's words, Tanjiro analyzed the smell in the air more seriously. But as time went by, Tanjiro never found the smell of Muzan Kibutsuji. Bai Yu felt that something was wrong, so he immediately said, "Yuzu Tenjin, do you know Kirimiyo?" Hearing Bai Yu asking this, Yuzu Tenjin looked a little confused, but still nodded and said, "I know. Why are you asking this? Muzan Kibutsuji has left Kyogokuya. Don't guard it anymore. Hinazuru is in Kirimiyo. Let's go over and take a look." Bai Yu said immediately. Hearing this, the expression on Yuzu Tenjin's face suddenly became ugly. Tanjiro, you continue to watch out for Muzan Kibutsuji here, and don't act rashly. Shiraha and I will go to Kirimiesi. Yuzu Tenjin immediately told Tanjiro. Tanjiro had no objection to this, so he nodded. Follow me. Yuzu Tenjin immediately signaled to Shiraha, and then the two of them turned into two black shadows, and flashed quickly on the building. On the way to Kirimiesi, Shiraha learned from Yuzu Tenjin what Kirimiesi was. Kirimiesi is a very low-end prostitute house, and prostitutes who cannot attract customers or are sick will be sent to this place. Shiraha also briefly told Yuzu Tenjin about Inazuru's situation. After listening to Shiraha's story, things were indeed as agreed by Yuzu Tenjin and Inazuru, but why didn't Inazuru use that to inform her of the news? After a while, Bai Yu and Yuzu Tenjin arrived at Kirimiesi. As soon as they arrived at this place, they could hear dense panting and the sound of men fighting. The whole place looked like a concentration camp. Some rooms were brightly lit, while others were pitch black. Yuzu Tenjin quickly found the person in charge here, and then asked by name that he wanted to find Inazuru, and also stuffed a sum of money into the person in charge. The person in charge took the money and immediately took Yuzu Tenjin to find someone, but he couldn't help but mutter, only young people like you like to play with outdated and obsolete products. This much money is enough for you to book a night. Just remind you in advance, don't blame others if you get sick. Yuzu Tenjin resisted the urge to beat up the person in charge. If he hadn't led the way to find Inazuru, Yuzu Tenjin would have punched him long ago. Yuzu Tenjin, I think something might be fishy. Bai Yu reminded immediately. I can't care about so much now. Saving people is the most important thing. Yuzu Tenjin was too busy to care about so much. Listening to the tone of the person in charge, his wife had obviously suffered a lot of grievances here. Hearing this, Bai Yu could only take it one step at a time. Soon, under the leadership of the person in charge, Bai Yu and Yuzu Tenjin came to the door of a room. The person in charge pointed at the door and said, the one in this room is the one called Inazuru. Before the person in charge finished speaking, Yuzu Tenjin had already broken into the room, and Bai Yu followed him in immediately. As soon as he entered the room, Bai Yu saw Yuzu Tenjin holding a dying woman in his arms. Chapter 443 Exposed. What an impatient guy. When the person in charge saw Yuzu Tenjin breaking into the room, he immediately turned around and walked away, cursing. If Yuzu Tenjin had not given enough money at the beginning, the person in charge would definitely ask Yuzu Tenjin to pay for the damage to the door. In the room, a woman's belt seemed to come alive, crawling like a snake, and even stood up, just like a snake standing up its head when facing an enemy. Seeing this strange belt, Bai Yu also became alert. If he had a weapon at this time, Bai Yu would have drawn his sword and started. Things are really not that simple. Inazuru seems to be a bait. Seeing this strange belt, Yuzu Tenjin hugged the dying Inazuru and immediately flashed to Bai Yu's side. The belt did not mean to attack, but grew a mouth and a pair of eyes. The loss of contact between these three little mice really attracted the Demon Slayer core. What annoying guys. That handsome boy named Bai Yu. Do you think my moans sound nice? As long as you join us and follow the adults, you can also enjoy my body as long as you need it. The belt first looked down on the Demon Slayer core with disgust and then tried to win over Bai Yu. The reason why the belt knew that Bai Yu was lurking on the roof and eavesdropping was because the belt was the clone of Dakimaki. When Bai Yu was lurking on the roof, Muzan Kibutsuji had already turned into a mosquito through his clone and discovered Bai Yu hiding on the roof. Muzan Kibutsuji, who knew that he was discovered, did not panic at all and adopted the method of not moving if the enemy did not move. This is also the reason why Muzan Kibutsuji only had fun with Dakimaki after seeing her and did not have any conversation. Because he knew that Bai Yu was eavesdropping, Muzan chose to communicate with Dakimaki through cells and told Dakimaki how to deal with it. This also explains why Tanjiro couldn't find Muzan outside of Kaigakuya, because Muzan knew that he might be targeted, so he changed his image to get away and used a lot of fragrance to cover up the smell of his body. Hearing the words behind the belt, Bai Yu's face sank, and then he was very upset. His lurking was discovered by the other party, but he didn't know it at all. In fact, Bai Yu didn't realize that he was discovered because Bai Yu not only concealed his breath, but also put away his perception. If he didn't put away his perception, with Musen's keen perception, he would definitely be able to detect Bai Yu's perception. If we really want to find a reason, it is that the murderer Sora revealed by Tanjiro at that time made Musen wary and alert. So when he met Takimaki, Musen deployed many clones transformed into mosquitoes around the room and outside to monitor the situation outside the room. If Tanjiro had not made Musen suspicious, it is hard to say whether Bai Yu would have been discovered. Therefore, Musen only used his own advantages and abilities to discover Bai Yu. If he also used the demonized stealth to lurk, then Musen really couldn't find Bai Yu. Chapter 444, Mutation. Hearing what the clone of Takimaki Yade said, Yuzu Tenjin also looked at Bai Yu with a nervous expression. Yuzu Tenjin's nervousness came more from Bai Yu, because Yade's words just now were meant to win over Bai Yu. If Bai Yu agreed, the situation would be troublesome. Secondly, the words of Yade's clone were misleading, making Yuzu Tenjin feel that Bai Yu seemed to have contacted Musen Kibutsuji in Kagakuya, and Bai Yu deliberately led him here. I never like women. Even if I like you, I can still have sex with you without joining you. Bai Yu was not bewitched by Takimaki's words, but said very domineeringly, with the superdimensional system in hand, are you still afraid of not having women? Even if that woman is a ghost, as long as Bai Yu is willing, then she must kneel in front of him and serve him. Hearing Bai Yu's arrogant words, Daka's Sash clone immediately laughed at Bai Yu. This laughter was more of a mockery of Bai Yu, and secondly, it was really amused by Bai Yu's words. A person actually wanted to rape a ghost. This was the funniest joke Daki had ever heard. You have a big taste, handsome boy. I like you more and more suddenly. Daki continued to say coquettishly. Stop talking nonsense. You didn't show up just to win me over, right? Where are the other two girls named Shenyu and Suma? You'd better not tell me that you ate them. Bai Yu's whole person immediately turned cold, and then said to Daka's clone in a bad tone. After seeing Bai Yu's attitude, Yuzu Tenjin's nervous mood also eased, and then he followed Bai Yu and echoed, yes. What about the other two wives? Hand them over to me quickly. Hidaka's Sash clone chuckled a few times, and then said, don't worry. Originally, I was planning to kill or eat them directly, but the adults said that this is a bargaining chip between us and the handsome boy Bai Yu, so the two little mice are safe for the time being. I know you want to save them, but not now. Wait for my news outside Kagakuya. In the next few days, I will give you a chance to save them. Hidakimaki's clone Yade finally laughed maliciously and slipped out of the room. Bai Yu did not stop Dakimaki's Yade clone from leaving, because it was just a clone that delivered a message. Even if Bai Yu destroyed it, it would not have any effect on Dakimaki. Yuzu Tenjin looked at Bai Yu, who had a gloomy face, and asked, what happened in Kagakuya? Why did Ghost win you over? Did you meet Musen Kibutsuji? Call back Kyujo, Zenitsu and Inosuke. We have been exposed. We have to rethink things. Bai Yu did not answer Yuzu Tenjin, but explained to Yuzu Tenjin. As he spoke, Bai Yu walked in front of Yuzu Tenjin, and then used the breathing of wood to regulate Hinazuru's body. The reason why Hinazuru suddenly became seriously ill was actually because he took a special pill. This pill can make the body enter a weak state. When the effect of the medicine takes effect, the person who takes the medicine will have symptoms of vomiting blood or coughing up blood, which makes people mistakenly believe that he has a serious illness. Yuzu Tenjin has given Hinazuru the antidote as soon as possible, and now he only needs to rest for a period of time to fully recover. Chapter 445 Discussion 1. Bai Yu's use of wood breathing was not to speed up Hinazuru's recovery, but to reactivate the activity of Hinazuru's body cells to make her feel better. Seeing Yuzu Tenjin staring at him blankly, Bai Yu sighed helplessly, and then said, don't worry, I won't go along with Demon. Although I don't know how Musen Kibutsuji discovered it, the current situation is like this, we are exposed. They are obviously prepared to deal with it, and we must also discuss the countermeasures again. The situation is not as bad as you think, at least your other two wives are safe for the time being. Bai Yu's words finally made Yuzu Tenjin understand, so he nodded to Bai Yu. After that, Bai Yu and Yuzu Tenjin went back to find Tanjiro. Tanjiro saw Bai Yu and Yuzu Tenjin coming back with a woman and knew that Bai Yu had successfully rescued Hinazuru, and he couldn't help but feel happy. Tanjiro, let's go. No need to stay behind. Muzan Kibutsuji has already discovered us. Bai Yu didn't say anything nonsense and explained the situation to Tanjiro directly. Senior Bai Yu, what's going on? Tanjiro asked in confusion when he heard Bai Yu's words. I'll tell you the details after we go back. Bai Yu didn't rush to explain to Tanjiro. It was normal for Tanjiro not to know what was going on. If it wasn't for Daki's belt clone who made the situation clear to Bai Yu still didn't know that he was exposed. After that, Bai Yu, Tanjiro and Yuzu Tenjin all returned to the Wisteria family where they settled. Yuzu Tenjin also brought Hinazuru back and then gathered in the same room with Bai Yu and Tanjiro. The atmosphere was quite depressing and dull. Before returning, several people had already instructed the crow to notify Hattori Kyujo, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke. Now they are just waiting for the three of them to return. Before Hattori Kyujo, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke came back, Hinazuru told them about what she had encountered. Then Shiraha, Tanjiro and Yuzu Tenjin knew that Daki of Kagakuya was the 6th demon among the 12 demon moons. They also knew why Hinazuru did not contact Yuzu Tenjin after entering Kirimai's. It was because Hinazuru was monitored by Daki's belt clone when she was in Kirimai's, which made it impossible for Hinazuru to contact Yuzu Tenjin. After that, Shiraha told Tanjiro and Yuzu Tenjin about the situation on his side. After listening to Bai Yu's story, Tanjiro was also a little annoyed and then blamed himself. It's all my fault. He must have noticed my murderous intent at that time. Tanjiro, you don't have to blame yourself. It was me who was really exposed to the enemy. I can only blame myself for underestimating the ability of Muzan Kibutsuji. I didn't even know that I was exposed. Bai Yu said at this time. Bai Yu, can you trust what Dakimaki said? Have you ever thought that Shin and Suma have been killed? Yuzu Tenjin asked his concerns. Hinazuru, who was standing aside, heard what Yuzu Tenjin said, and her ugly face became even uglier. Based on Dakimaki's one-sided words, Yuzu Tenjin was not sure whether Shin and Suma had been killed. Before coming here, Yuzu Tenjin had already thought about the possibility that his wife might have been killed, but Yuzu Tenjin still had a fluke in his heart. After all, if they were alive, they had to see the person, and if they were dead, they had to see the body. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446 Discussion 2. I mean, what if Shinju and Suma were actually killed a long time ago, but Kibutsuji Muzan deliberately said that they were still alive in order to deceive us? Husband Shinju always emphasized what if. In fact, it was because of his luck that he subconsciously still wanted to believe that Shinju and Suma were still alive. Bai Yu looked at Yasu Shinju and then said, this is what they want to prove. If they can't prove that Shinju and Suma are still alive, they obviously can't lure me and Tanjiro into the trap. Actually, we can roughly guess their plan. Fallen Princess must have been instructed by Onimushuji Muzan, and they plan to use Shinju and Suma to lure Tanjiro and I into the place where they set up an ambush and then kill them. Except Tanjiro and I can go. You can't follow. Since it is Kibutsuji Muke's plan, then I have to send the news back to the headquarters and ask the headquarters to send more people. Husband and Shinju will be there immediately. After all, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to attack Tsuji Muzan. No hurry. Bai Yu immediately stopped Yasuo Shinju and then said, I think that Ghost Dance Tsuji Muzan was involved in this operation. Judging from Ghost Dance Tsuji Muzan's cunning level, he must have been able to think of this. We will use our ability to save people to encircle and suppress them, so he must have returned to his hiding place at this time. At this time, Hattori Kyujo was the first to come back. She was still wearing the clothes of a wandering girl, and the exquisite makeup on her face was completely different from the one applied by Yuzu and Shinju. Captain Bai Yu, Lord Yuzuki, what happened? Why was the latent mission cancelled again? I'm just a little bit frowny. Hattori Kyujo asked in confusion as soon as he entered the room. Kyujo, we have been exposed. There is no need to lurk anymore. At the same time, the opponent has also shown his cards. The fallen princess of Kaigoku House is the Land of the Wind and the 12 Ghost Moons. At the same time, we also met on Imutsujimu. Unfortunately, we were exposed because of Kibutsujimusen. Bai Yu briefly explained the situation to Hattori Kyujo. Hearing the news about Muse Kibutsuji, Hattori Kyujo immediately became excited and then said, Captain Bai Yu, did you fight Muse Matsuji Muse? Bai Yu shook his head and said, no. Things evolved into this situation. It was mostly caused by Bai Yu's induction. If Bai Yu hadn't been greedy at the time, he might not have exposed himself. It was because Bai Yu wanted to know the purpose of Kibutsuji coming to Flower Street so much that he was eventually exposed. If Beifei and Tanjiro were squatting outside the store together at that time, they might have been able to squat until Muse and Kibutsuji came out. However, what has happened cannot be reversed. In fact, Bai Yu can't change anything now that he has time to reverse the props. Bai Yu himself can no longer go back to that time. The time reversal prop can only reverse Bai Yu's current time, and it has a specific range. People outside the range will not be affected. The most important thing is that Bai Yu doesn't have this prop available at all. Hattori Kyujo couldn't help but feel a little disappointed when he heard that Shiroha, Tanjiro, and Utsuo Tenjin did not fight with Kibutsuji Muke. Chapter 447 Discussion 3. The door was pushed open again, and Inosuke and Agatsuma Zenitsu had successfully escaped and returned. When they came back, they asked the same questions as Hattori Kyujo, and Bai Yu explained the situation to them again. After listening to Bai Yu's explanation, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke also understood the current situation. Senior Bai Yu, you are so powerful, but you were discovered by Muse and Kibutsuji. This is too weak. Agatsuma Zenitsu seized this rare opportunity and stepped on Bai Yu. Bai Yu was not angry about this, nor did he mind at all. After all, this was the fact, and Bai Yu did not try to cover it up. I also found the breath of the demon over there. It's a pity that it ran away. Inosuke said, rather discouraged. At this time, Hattori Kyujo asked Bai Yu, in that case, what should we do next? Should we go to find the lair of that Dakimaki? I have found out where Dakimaki lives. It is in the north courtyard of Kagakuya, in a mansion where the sun does not shine. It's useless. The other party has already revealed his cards. Obviously, he will not stay there anymore. If we go there now, we will definitely come back empty-handed. Even if Dakimaki thinks the most dangerous place is the safest place, she still has hostages in her hands, and we can't do anything to her. Bai Yu explained the situation in detail. At this point, Bai Yu looked at Yuzu Tenjin, and then continued, unless Yuzu Tenjin gives up Shinayu and Suma, then we can kill Dakimaki by force, but that is unrealistic. We are emotional people, not ghosts, who can give up everything. Bai Yu's words were just talk, and he didn't really want to convince Yuzu Tenjin to give up his other two wives. The position of Yuzu Tenjin's wife is as important as the position of Nezuko in Bai Yu's heart. Yuzu Tenjin did not speak, his expression was extremely solemn, and he was obviously very worried about Shin and Suma. This time, Muse and Kibutsuji obviously took this opportunity to attack Bai Yu and Tanjiro. So Bai Yu and Tanjiro's primary task is undoubtedly to save people, and our task is how to support Bai Yu and Tanjiro as quickly as possible, and cooperate with Bai Yu and Tanjiro to counterattack the enemy. Yuzu Tenjin spoke out the core key point of the matter at this time. Mr. Yuzu is right. When the time comes to rescue the hostages, only Senior Bai Yu and I will go, and you will definitely not be able to follow. And we don't know where they will set the location, so how to report the point is the problem we have to face. Tanjiro also said along with Yuzu Tenjin's words at this time. Tanjiro is right. The other side obviously won't give us a chance to mark, so reporting the location will become a very difficult task. Bai Yu also said. As this question was raised, Hattori Kyujo, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke all thought about it seriously. Let the crows follow us in the air. This should be a good idea. Hattori Kyujo said at this time. Hearing this, everyone began to think about whether this method was feasible. Bai Yu was the first to respond. The crows fly too slowly, they may not be able to keep up with our speed, and there is a risk of being discovered. Chapter 448 Preparations for War. Even if it's not discovered, it will take a lot of time for the crow to fly back to notify you. Bai Yu pointed out the disadvantages of the crow. Although it may not be the best way, it is worth implementing a safety plan. As long as the crow flies as high as possible and is out of the sensing range, the other party should not be able to detect it. Yuzu Tenjin expressed his opinion at this time. Bai Yu did not refute anything. This method can indeed be implemented as a safety plan. Sound, my ears can hear sounds from far away. As long as Bai Yu and Tanjiro deliberately amplify their footsteps when running and use a specific step frequency, I can follow the footsteps. Agatsuma Zenitsu also said a method at this time. Although Bai Yu knew that Agatsuma Zenitsu's ears were as sensitive as Tanjiro's nose, he didn't think it was very reliable to determine the position by sound. If Bai Yu and Tanjiro ran out of Agatsuma Zenitsu's hearing range, Agatsuma Zenitsu would be directly useless. However, if we cooperate with the crow's midway reporting, provide Zenitsu Kazuma with a general direction of action, and cooperate with his ears, it is indeed not so easy to lose them. If Zenitsu Kazuma's nose is as sensitive as Tanjiro's, it will be much easier. After all, smell is not as easy to lose as sound. Sound is almost fleeting. As long as it is beyond Zenitsu Kazuma's hearing range, there is no trace. Smell is different. Smell can remain in the air for a period of time. It will not be as fleeting as sound. So even if Bai Yu and Tanjiro run far away, they can still continue to track them through the smell left on the road. However, smell is easily disturbed by the natural environment. Once the wind blows, it is basically equivalent to losing the direction. Therefore, smell tracking and sound tracking each have their own advantages and disadvantages. Because I can't think of any very good way at the moment, I can only pin my hopes on Zenitsu Kazuma's extraordinary ears. After that, Yuzu Tenjin asked a crow to report the situation in the flower street to the headquarters, but Yuzu Tenjin did not take the initiative to ask the headquarters to send more people. As for whether the headquarters would send more people, it depends on what the headquarters means. After all, there will be a tough battle in a while. Then, Bai Yu, Tanjiro and Agatsuma Zenitsu studied the sound code. In order to make Agatsuma Zenitsu feel the sound better, Bai Yu tried to focus on the operation of breathing on the toes. Because a lot of water rhythm gathers at the toes, when Bai Yu's toes touch the ground, it can make the kind of dripping sound of water drops falling into the water surface. Because the sound is extremely crisp and recognizable, and it is also transmitted through the solid medium of the ground, so Agatsuma Zenitsu's ears hear it more crisply, and are not easily disturbed by other noises. Tanjiro also wanted to learn from Bai Yu, but found that he couldn't do it, so he had to give up helplessly. In fact, the reason why Tanjiro failed was due to the lack of breathing state, and the toes could not gather enough water rhythm. The group also began to prepare for the battle, and adjusted their physical condition to the best combat state. When everything was ready and the emissions were checked one by one, Bai Yu and his group fell into an agonizing wait, waiting for the news of Daki. Chapter 449 Sudden Heavy Rain. The news of the crow was transmitted back to the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters a day later. Yubuayashiki Yoshiya was the first to receive the news from Yuzu Tenjin. After knowing that Yuzu Tenjin encountered a difficult situation, Yubuayashiki Yoshiya sent the flame pillar Rengoku Kajiro and the insect pillar Kocho Shinobu to the flower street to support Shirada and Yuzu Tenjin. Kocho Shinobu and Rengoku Kajiro were both worried about someone in their hearts. Kocho Shinobu was worried about Shirahara, and Rengoku Kajiro was worried about his stepson Tanjiro. If Muzan Kibutsuji really wanted to take this opportunity to target Shirada and Tanjiro, then it was obvious that what was waiting for Shirada and Tanjiro was likely to be the encirclement of the upper rank demon. Therefore, Rengoku Kajiro, who had come into contact with the upper rank demon, knew the degree of danger of the situation, and it would be difficult for Yuzu Tenjin and the Zangetsu team members to deal with it alone. Therefore, Kocho Shinobu and Rengoku Kajiro were very hurried along the way and never stopped to rest. On the other side, 2 nights later, Bai Yu and his party finally waited for each other outside Kyogokuya. The person who showed up was not Daki, but Akaza, the upper rank 3 who met on the Infinite Train last time. Akaza was accompanied by a woman, and this woman was not Daki either. When Yuzu Tenjin saw this woman, he immediately shouted excitedly, "Shinayu! Tenjin!" Shinayu couldn't hold back his excitement when he saw Yuzu Tenjin and wanted to return to Yuzu Tenjin's side. At the same time, Yuzu Tenjin also wanted to rush up and pull Shinayu back. But Akaza did immediately put Shinayu in front of him, then pinched Shinayu's neck and said, "Don't be impatient. If you don't want her to die, don't act rashly. Let her go." "And Suma? Where did you take Suma?" Yuzu Tenjin stopped moving forward and questioned Akaza. The crowd passing by was also frightened by the confrontation between Akaza and Yuzu Tenjin, so they retreated to the side and did not dare to move forward. Just when the two sides were confronting each other, it suddenly rained heavily, and passers-by on the street looked for places to hide from the rain. However, Bai Yu and Akaza, who were standing on the street, were not affected by the rain at all, and let the rain fall on themselves. Bai Yu still had a calm face, because it was obviously not the time to fight. Agatsuma Zenitsu felt the oppression of Akaza, and shrank behind Bai Yu involuntarily. Inosuke looked like he was going to go up and test it, but was pulled back by Bai Yu. Service Kyujo stood quietly beside Bai Yu, waiting for orders. "Senior Bai Yu, this sudden heavy rain may affect my hearing. What should I do?" Agatsuma Zenitsu was worried at this time, and then leaned close to Bai Yu's ear to remind him. In order not to worry others, and to prevent being exposed, Zenitsu Agatsuma spoke very carefully into Bai Yu's ear. Hearing this, Bai Yu knew that the sudden heavy rain had disrupted the original plan. The rain would not only affect Zenitsu Agatsuma's hearing, but also the ravens on standby in the sky. Once the ravens' feathers are stained with a lot of rain, it would be difficult for them to fly. But now they can only bite the bullet, and Bai Yu had to encourage Zenitsu Agatsuma, "Don't be stressed, believe in your own abilities." The only thing they can rely on now is Zenitsu Agatsuma's ears, hoping that Zenitsu Agatsuma's ears can eliminate the high frequency interference of rain hitting the ground, and distinguish their own special pace frequency in the noisy environment. Chapter 450, Quick Talk. Tanjiro's expression at this time showed an anger that could not be concealed, and then Tanjiro couldn't help but question Yawoza. "Where is Kibutsuji Muke? Is he here? How can I deal with you? No need for adults to take action." Yawoza said calmly, "Let me ask you, is there another girl?" Compared to Kibutsuji Musen, Yuku Tenjin was more concerned about his other wife's humor. Yawoza didn't mean to be mysterious, and said very directly, "I don't have the other hostage in my hands. I brought this hostage here, just to let her prove to you that the other person is still alive. Otherwise, I would come empty-handed. You must not believe what I said." "Shinayu, is what he said true? Is Suma still alive?" Yasuda Shinayu immediately asked cautiously about being held hostage. Shenyu nodded, and then said, "Suma is still alive, in the hands of that fallen princess. How about you tell me what you want to do, before letting her go?" Bai Yu interrupted at this time, and asked Yawoza asked. Hearing this, Yawoza looked at Bai Yu. Yawoza had a very deep impression on Bai Yu, because Bai Yu was not only super powerful, but also full of weirdness. "Your name is Bai Yu, right? There are not many people who can let me introduce their names. To introduce you formally, my name is Yawoza. If you can join us, maybe we can become good friends. That slut of fallen princess, she seems to like you very much. Maybe after you join us, we can get together with her. This is a rare happy event in our 12 ghost months." Yawoza also attracted Bai Yu again. This is not only the instruction of Onimyasuji Musen, but also the original intention of Yawoza. For powerful people, Yawoza will always win over them. If they can successfully win over powerful beings, it will undoubtedly make the ghost camp more powerful. It goes without saying that I want to win over you. I'm not down enough to be a little brother. Believe it or not, it won't be long before Kibutsuji Musen will kneel in front of me and beg for mercy. Bai Yu doesn't care at all about winning over, just himself. The identity of a dimension traveler and the role of a human being are non-existent. Really? Yewozeduo couldn't help but laugh. He didn't know whether he was really amused by Bai Yu or whether he was laughing at Bai Yu's overestimation of his abilities. However, Yewose did not speak out to defend the image of his master, Oniwutsuji Mumi, because Yewose felt that Bai Yu was just talking fast and there was no need to argue with him. If you want to save people, you, the kid named Tanjiro, and the girl who turned into a ghost named Nezuko, come with me. As for the others, just wait and collect the bodies of Bai Yu and the others. Yewose didn't delay any longer, but said to Bai Yu very rudely. Even if Yewose didn't say anything, Bai Yu knew that this was the case. Yewose must have set up a dragnet somewhere waiting for him and Tanjiro to enter. Okay. But can you let go of the hostage you brought first? It will be a hindrance to take her with you. Bai Yu agreed without thinking too much and tried to let Yewozeduo let go of one person first, although Bai Yu couldn't guarantee that Yewozeduo would let him go. Yewose wasn't stupid either, so it was naturally impossible for him to let Shenyu off just because of Bai Yu's few words. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.